Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was asleep at the switch. Not that your comments would ever put me asleep, but I do want to thank you for holding today's hearings at the request of Subcommittee Ranking Member Corrine Brown and myself. As the proposal you and Mr. Schuster have put forth raises a great many questions and concerns. Amtrak is a for-profit corporation. It is not an agency of the federal government, yet your proposal would divest Amtrak of its assets in the Northeast Corridor and leave it responsible for its debts. The Nonpartisan Congressional Research Service has determined that this proposal is unconstitutional because it violates the Appointments Clause of the Constitution. It is also likely that the proposal violates the Takings Clause because it takes Amtrak's private property without just compensation. As a for-profit corporation, I believe Amtrak's standing is very little different than that of any other for-profit corporation in America. Yet I do not think anyone would dream of, say, legislatively stripping CSX or Norfolk Southern of its assets if one was unhappy with the freight service they were providing. There are many other peculiar aspects to this proposal. Under it, the Secretary of Transportation would solicit expressions of interest from entities interested in replacing Amtrak as the operator in the Northeast Corridor. The Secretary would then select up to 3 entities to be awarded $2 million in federal funds to develop more detailed proposals. Subsequently, the Northeast Corridor Executive Committee established by the measure would accept the detailed proposals and select the best one. There is no criteria contained in the measure as to what qualifications or restrictions might pertain to these entities. In fact, under a clear reading of the measure, China could qualify and operate the Northeast Corridor. Now, I don't believe that's something we really want to see happen. I also fail to see why we would hand over $2 million in taxpayer dollars to up to 3 entities in order for them to develop detailed proposal. That is rather odd, paying somebody to develop a proposal to submit to yourself. I do not think that's how things of this nature are normally done. There's also no guidance or criteria governing which proposal the committee would select, other than it being the best. What does that mean, the best? The best what? Would we amend federal aviation or highway statutes to say that the goal of those programs is to have the best aviation system or the best highways? The answer is, of course, that while we all want to do the best, we would not use that term as it is not a statutory term of art. In the case of your measure, Mr. Chairman, and I do commend you for your vigorous pursuit thereof, I think any overreaching goal as to what constitutes the best would include creating and retaining jobs and provide the highest level of safety and security. As to other aspects of the measure, Amtrak relies on an operating profit from the Northeast Corridor to offset less profitable long-distance lines in other parts of the country, areas that rely heavily on passenger rail service. This includes, and accuse me of being parochial or whatever, but this includes the Cardinal that runs in my home state of West Virginia, a route connecting New York to Chicago. With the establishment of Amtrak in the Northeast Corridor, the Cardinal will suffer a fatal blow under this proposal, along with many other vital routes that connect rural areas of our country coast to coast, including the Auto Train, Capital Limited, California Zephyr, Coast Starlight, Empire Building, and Texas Eagle. Right now, Amtrak serves about 40% of America's rural population. All of this service would be lost under the draft legislation. I also have serious concerns about the implications of this proposal on rail labor. Under this measure, the existing contracts of some 19,000 Amtrak workers would be abrogated, and new workers would have no Davis-Bacon protections and no protections under the Railroad Retirement Act, Railroad Unemployment Compensation, and the Railway Labor Act. In other words, this proposal leaves rail labor sitting at the station. While proponents of this proposal claim this will save money, I fear it will have just the opposite result. Under existing contracts, Amtrak workers would get displaced, receive up to 5 years of protection. As such, under this proposal, Amtrak would be responsible for up to $4.4 billion for displaced workers, an obligation that Amtrak would not be able to meet. This would undoubtedly fall on the U.S. government. This is just one of the many ways that this proposal will cost, not save, the American taxpayers' money. And then finally, as I conclude, Mr. Chairman, in its present form, this proposal will have serious consequences for commuter rail agencies and freight railroads. And frankly, I'm not sure that the proposal can even be fixed. My fear is that if it is enacted, it will result in a transcontinental tragedy. I thank you for the time and look forward to today's witnesses.